Okay, we're live.
Okay.
Hi, Sarah. How are you doing today?
Oh, pretty good. I feel really stressed out and anxious right now.
Okay, and before we get going and started, I just want to let you know that our session is going to be recorded so other students in class and our professor is able to view our session. Today, I also want to go over with you on some credentials. I am currently a student with Shattern State College working on my master's in clinical mental health counseling to become a counselor. Would it be okay to go ahead and proceed with this session today?
Yes. Yes, it would be.
Okay. So what are some things that you're dealing with? What brings you to counseling today?
Well, I'm trying to deal with some of the issues from my past that keep creeping up. Our family was involved in a financial crisis, so to speak. Our banker was indicted on, I think it was 8 counts of different things. We were named in the indictment, and he did go to jail for 18 months. But during this whole process, the bank, instead of helping all of us, they foreclosed on over 98 farm families in our area. And we were one of them. We were one of the last ones because we put up such a big fight. We've been in the newspaper. We've been on NTV. We've been in multiple newspapers, actually. We've been in the World Herald. We've been in the Grand Island paper and the Kearney paper because of this. And I guess living through such a traumatic time and having so many traumatic experiences go with it, I'm just trying to learn how to cope and deal with it.
Okay, so it sounds like there's a lot that has brought on some of your anxiety and everything. As far as what you've described about the foreclosure, the legal issues dealing with the banker at your bank, and other things. So, talking about that, let's talk a little bit about like what are some coping skills that you have used over that past time period that has helped you carry out like your normal responsibilities. Could be involved with your relationships and any social activities.
Well, I kind of just feel like a robot going through the motions as far as work goes. My heart isn't in it. I hate my job at the time that most of this was going on. I was working through a temp agency when this started, and we were building the ethanol plant in Ravenna. And I had a great support system there as far as the friends that I worked with. They didn't fully understand, but they did support me in every aspect that they could. And so didn't my boss. But then that job ended, and I was unemployed for a time period. And then I got my other job, and I went to work at Baldwin's, and they were not supportive. I felt more alone every day going to work than anything. Then I had one confidant there at work, and he was like the only person that I had there that I could talk to and stuff. And so I was just alone minus him. And since he was in the computer department and I wasn't, I didn't get to see him very often unless I had a problem or we went to do something after hours. the day that they took our house, I would have been the 6th generation to get the farm. The day that they took our house, we had over 100 people show up to help us move. Neighbors and everybody. My dad had a nervous breakdown that day and ended up, he should have been hospitalized looking back now. But I think we all crawled inside of ourselves so much and just trying to go into survival mode that I still find myself in that mode. It's hard for me to not feel like I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop. And I just kind of feel numb a lot of the time. Like I just go through the motions. I have a hard time attaching to a lot of things. I can't recall chunks of my childhood like my brother and sister can. I have nightmares. I have a very hard time trying to function on some days.
Okay. It sounds like you got strong emotions with everything that's going on and all. So where you're feeling, where you mentioned that you're feeling numb most of the time, it sounds like there's some stress, anxiety involved with that you could be feeling. And talking a little bit about the feelings and all, just so I get a better understanding, clear picture as far as all the feelings that you might be feeling. Alongside that anxiety and stress that you mentioned that you deal with, is there any other feelings that you might be dealing with, such as some strong emotional depression, anything like that?
Yes, I know. Through all of this, it's created some social type anxiety. I used to be able to walk into a room of people, like at a party, and I could work the room. And I could go talk to everybody, anybody. I could talk to anybody about anything. I would find something. Now, I'm much more guarded. I don't like to go to social events like that. I don't even like to go to the mall or Walmart when it's crowded because I feel panicky. I feel more I feel like I'm back in my teenage years when you feel like that awkwardness of you don't know where you fit and things like that. I've had a hard time with relationships. I don't know. I don't know what to share and what not to share. So I feel as if I just guard myself, then nobody can hurt me. And as long as I know that I just have to be able to know at all time I don't need that other person and I can take care of myself.
Okay. Have you, with the issues we're talking about today that's brought you in, have you been anywhere else besides in regards to these same issues that you're dealing with, such as a doctor or any other? Have you had any other tests done or anything?
I went to the doctor and they subscribed me a anti-anxiety, anti-depression type medication. And then for when it gets really bad, when I'm having my panic attack, is what they called it. They gave me, I can't think of the name of the pill. It's to help bring you back down from that fight or flight mode, she said. I can't remember what it's called. I know it's highly addictive if you, it's like a street drug type thing, and they use it for other means. But it made me feel like I bottomed out, and then I would become very moody and irritable afterwards.
Okay. So it kind of sounds like the medication that they prescribe that they thought would kind of benefit you and help you. It sounds like it might have made things worse as bringing you irritability and with your mood and behaviors and all.
Yeah. I mean, when I came off of it, I mean, I can understand now how people that are addicted to drugs talk about coming down and bottoming. That's how you felt every time you took that panic medicine. That anxiety pill, that helped, but it was this short-term thing that they'd make you take. And when you came down off of it, you just felt horrible and moody, and you could rip into somebody, or you could sit there and bawl for 3 hours.
Okay. And did these doctors run any tests as far as if there were any any assessments as far as what you could be, like a diagnosis as far as any disorders or anything like that?
They just told me I had depression and anxiety, and
Okay.
suggested that I seek out a counselor.
Okay. Okay. So did they ever discuss anything like maybe PTSD or anything, or?
Not really. I felt as if they were just trying to write you a script and get you in and out of their office type thing, and not that they were going to try and dive into anything. Because the more you tried to talk to them about anything, they were like, oh, just go to a counselor. They can help you.
Okay. Because it kind of sounds like, listening to some of the anxiety, the depression, and some of the past, it sounds like some of the stuff in the past has caused a lot of these feelings that you have now as far as the anxiety and depression from everything that you've gone through, from, the foreclosure, the issue with the legal issues with the bank, losing property and all that stuff. You do remember you mentioned here you don't like going to the mall just because of a crowd. Sometimes that escalates your anxiety level. And that's kind of why I mentioned if they ever mentioned anything in the PTSD side of it, and maybe that's something we could look at, maybe to run assessments and see if there's a link with the PTSD. I kind of look at some of the anxiety and some of the symptoms you go through, socialization. It sounds like maybe that's something that you could be dealing with too. And we can run through a set of tests maybe to find out if that's what it is. And then we can kind of help us gear more towards a treatment plan and kind of set a goals out to try to make your activities, social activities, a little bit more comfortable and bearable for you and everything. Does that sound like something that would be, that you think would be able to help you?
So that isn't just for like people that have been in the war. It's for other people too. The only diagnosis I've ever heard along with that is just, like your promotional things on TV about talking about soldiers and things like that.
Yeah, and that's a good question that's good that you brought that up. We hear the word PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and when we hear of that or see it, whether it's on TV or anything, we're it's more geared towards people that have been in war. And it is true that some people that have served over in the war, such as the recent wars over in Iraq, a lot of them people come back and they're dealing with PTSD and they're coping with it. Pretty much the PTSD is pretty much anybody. You don't have to be in the military. You don't have to be active in a war to be diagnosed with PTSD. Anything that's traumatic, and that's kind of where it relates to the PTSD, anything that can be traumatic, like in your situation, you dealt with a traumatic situation, as far as the foreclosure, the anxiety and stuff, and that can kind of tie into the PTSD. Like here, you've had an issue with being around crowd, and when you mentioned by going to the mall, being around that crowd, that kind of escalates that anxiety. So that can kind of relate to some of the symptoms of PTSD. So PTSD can actually be a diagnosis for anybody other than someone that's in the military.
So, I mean, when all this stuff was happening, we were being followed. Our house was, we caught people breaking into our house at different times. I don't know what they were looking for, but it's caused a huge fear of being alone at night also. Then on top of it, we had death threats because they wanted us to shut up and not bring any more attention to what was going on. It all tied back into what the federal agents called the Mexican Mafia, because the banker was involved with methamphetamine, and it tied back to a drug deal that he had lent $2 million unsecure to drug dealers through the bank window, the drive-up window. So that's kind of why they didn't want a lot of attention drawn to themselves, because the one day there was a knock at the door, and we had the FBI, a U.S. Marshal, and I can't remember who the third guy was. An FDIC officer. And they all came and they sat down, and we were very leery to let them in because we didn't know if they were real or not. We asked for their credentials and verified them before we let them in. And we had to do interviews with them, and that's how we started with working with the U.S. Attorney. And he probably helped us more than anybody did, even though he didn't have to, so to speak. But then in the midst of all this, I'm trying to live a 20-some-year-old's life, and I almost get raped one night. So, I mean, I feel like there's all these different facets that fit into this, and I don't know if that's what's causing the nightmares and the panic attacks too.
Okay. So it sounds like from what we're talking about of some of the fears that escalate the anxiety and stuff, and those are real good topics that you brought up, that with the fear and everything. And that's something I like to work with you on as far as coming up with some coping skills on this, just to kind of help, so we can help build some confidence. We can kind of help you overcome the fears and able you to see yourself and others and the community or your surrounding in a more less fearful and a depressing way. And that's something I want to work with, is coming up with some of those. That sound like something that you'd be willing to come up with?
I'm willing to try anything to help me get past some of this. I don't know. The priest that did our marriage counseling said that he thought I was bringing a lot of anger to my marriage. And I said, I don't have a lot of anger reflected at my husband. I have a lot of anger for the people that have hurt us, and I can't just walk away from that. So I'm willing to try whatever it takes to make myself better so that my family unit is better.
Okay, and that sounds good. And I think maybe after today, what I'd like to do for a goal with you is, I know you mentioned a lot about stress and the anxiety. Yeah, I really like to focus on that. I know we talked, I mentioned to give you a little brief description of PTSD that you might be dealing with. But I think one good thing too, on a goal that we can have, is giving you some material to read about anxiety management and stress management stuff, just to kind of help with the cognitive restructuring, maybe help you get better understanding, give you some goals and coping skills that you can utilize in coping with a lot of the stress and anxiety that you're dealing with, along with what the past has brought into that. So, what are some goals that you have that we can start off with, as far as overcoming some of the stress, anxiety, and the other feelings of depression that we can start working on?
I'm not 100% sure. I would just like to be able to walk outside and not feel fearful that someone's going to follow me, or that someone's going to I don't know what the right words for it. I have a huge fear of just being outside and not knowing my surroundings. As long as I'm in my little safe place, my house or my mom's, then I'm okay. But if I go much out of that, even at a restaurant, like, I'm constantly looking who's around me and things like that. I'd really like to be able to feel more comfortable in the activities and things that I did prior to all this.
Okay. And I think another good goal that we can work on too, that might be helpful, is some of this. We want to look at some of the skills that are needed for you too, and some of the skills that we can work on as far as in those goals is the skills needed for the progress in your counseling, your therapy, over in working with anxiety and depression and stress. So some of the things we want to do is be able to identify and label and have good management in anxiety, stress, and depression when they're coming up, or when we're dealing with them the most. And then just be able to use the skill building for you with the emotions, and kind of come up with some techniques we could use on a day-to-day basis when we're feeling at a higher end of anxiety and stress.
Okay.
Okay. Um, what what are some skills that you've used in the past, or what are some things that help you be more comfortable or be able at a manageable level with the stress and anxiety? What kind of help you uh, keep that under control, or that you've used in the past?
I've tried to journal, but the more I have to relive it, the more panicky I feel. I can pick up any of those court documents, and if I read it, I can tell you exactly where I was and what was going on that day, down to almost what I had on for every single one of them. So I don't feel like keeping a journal is a very good option for me, because I have to relive every moment then. Other than that, I just tried to retreat into taking a hot bath and maybe trying to read a book or something. But that's about all I have.
Okay. And those sound like some good things. Like you mentioned, the journal, you didn't like that because it felt like you were reliving the past. Some of the suggestions that I have as far as maybe some material to utilize where you coming up with it is kind of coming up and identifying some situations, the anxiety and the stress level or depression is up a little bit more, is maybe looking at those thoughts, feelings, and labeling at that time what is making that situation more triggered. Maybe even kind of labeling some triggers to the anxiety and stress, and then going back, that would get you to go back and look at some of those triggers and take a better look at what's triggering that anxiety and stress. One thing I would like to see if you maybe do is kind of like a homework situation to kind of help with some of the coping skills and goals that we have. I mentioned some of the reading materials, but maybe one thing considered using that I've kind of read about. I kind of read more about it in the PTSD, and I thought it would be kind of a useful tool for a client, especially dealing with anxiety and stress. It's called Bad Thoughts Lead to Depressed Feelings. And it's kind of just looking at some of the thoughts we have at that point. At the time we're having, for example, we're having a thought that's bringing more depression or an anxiety attack or stressful situation. And then we document those thoughts and kind of separate the triggers of the thoughts, and it gives us a better understanding on that. I think by going through that, I think we can be able to get you more manageable with your stress and anxiety.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on that?
Like I said, I'm willing to try almost anything, because I want to find that peace that I had before all this happened. I mean, I know I'll never be able to have my old life back. I feel like my life has kind of been separated into chapters now. It's like before the bank, during the bank, and now after the bank. I want to find the peace, because not remembering things about my past scares me. Like my brother and sister and I were talking, and they can remember all these memories from our childhood. I can't. I can't remember a lot of the things that they talk about. And it scares me, because I don't have those memories. Sometimes the memories come back in little spurts, but it's just hit and miss as to what I'm going to remember.
Okay. Time was up.
Great. So do we want to log out of this one? So then we have just yours and then do another one. So then we have mine.
All to where you do the recording.
If I can figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah, we can do that. Then what I'll do is I'll call you and guide you through on how I got to that. That might be easier because you'll be able to go to it and be able to get in media share because it's your recording.
Okay. You said go to events first and then do it?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I'll see you in just a minute.
Okay.